When Jacob Martinez collapsed on Clint Eastwood's film set from his cancer treatment, everyone thought the dream was over. But Clint made a decision that shocked his entire crew. "We're not stopping. Jacob's name is going on this film as assistant director, and he's going to see it finished." What Clint did to make that happen defied every Hollywood rule and gave Jacob something to fight for in his final days. Jacob Martinez was 19 years old when he received two pieces of life-changing news in the same week. The first came from UCLA's film school, rejected. The second came from his oncologist. The leukemia that had been in remission for 2 years had returned, and this time it was terminal, 6 months, maybe less. Most 19-year-olds would have collapsed under that weight. Jacob had a different reaction. He sat down at his laptop in his parents' small apartment in Riverside, California, and he started writing letters to every filmmaker whose work had ever moved him. He wasn't asking for money or sympathy. He was asking for one thing, the chance to work on a real film set before he died. "I know I'll never go to film school now," he wrote in each letter. "I know I'll never have a career in this industry, but I've spent my whole life loving movies, studying them, dreaming about making them. If I could just be on a real set for even one day, if I could see how it actually works, I could die knowing I got close to the thing I loved most." He sent 43 letters. He got 42 polite rejections from assistants or no response at all. The 43rd letter went to Malpaiso Productions, addressed to Clint Eastwood. 3 days later, Jacob's phone rang. It was Clint himself. "Jacob, I got your letter. Tell me about the films you love." For 20 minutes, they talked about movies. Not about cancer, not about dying, just about the craft of filmmaking. Jacob talked about how he'd studied every frame of Unforgiven, how he'd watched the behind-the-scenes features of Mystic River until he'd memorized them, how he understood that directing wasn't about ego. It was about serving the story. Then Clint said something that made Jacob's mother, who was listening from across the room, start crying. "I'm starting production on a new film in 2 weeks. It's about real heroes, guys who stopped a terrorist attack on a train in France. I'm using the actual guys, not actors, to play themselves. It's going to be challenging, and honestly, I could use someone who understands my work to help on set. How do you feel about being my assistant director?" Jacob thought he'd misheard. "Assistant director, Mr. Eastwood, I've never worked on a film. I don't have any experience." "You've got something more important than experience," Clint interrupted. "You've got passion, you've got knowledge, and you've got a perspective on what matters that most people in this industry have lost. If you're strong enough to be there, I want you there. Not as charity, as part of my crew." 2 weeks later, Jacob Martinez arrived on the set of what would become the 1517 to Paris. He was weak from his latest round of chemotherapy, wearing a baseball cap to cover his hair loss, but his eyes were bright with purpose. Clint introduced him to the crew not as a dying kid being granted a wish, but as Jacob Martinez, one of our ads. "He knows my work better than most of you, so listen when he talks." The first 3 weeks were magical. Jacob worked 12-hour days despite his exhaustion. He learned how Clint set up shots with minimal fuss, how he trusted his actors, how he made creative decisions with quiet confidence. He took notes constantly, absorbing everything. The crew fell in love with him, his enthusiasm, his insights, his refusal to let his illness define him. Then, on day 22 of shooting, Jacob collapsed. They were filming at a train station when Jacob suddenly dropped to his knees, then fell forward. The set medic rushed over. Jacob's white blood cell count had crashed. His body was shutting down from the aggressive chemotherapy. The medic wanted to call an ambulance immediately. Jacob, barely conscious, grabbed the medic's arm. "Please," he whispered. "I just need to rest. Don't make me leave. I can't leave." Clint knelt beside him. "Jacob, you need to go to the hospital." "If I go now, they won't let me come back," Jacob said, tears streaming down his face. "And I'll never see the film finished. Please, Mr. Eastwood, please let me stay." The medic pulled Clint aside. "He needs emergency care. His immune system is compromised. If he catches anything here, it could kill him faster than the cancer." Clint looked at Jacob, then at his crew, then back at the medic. "What if we create a sterile environment? What if we bring in medical staff, set up a private space where Jacob can rest between takes, monitor him constantly?" That would be incredibly expensive and complicated. I didn't ask if it was expensive or complicated, Clint said firmly. I asked if it would work. What happened next had never been done in Hollywood history. Clint halted production for 2 days and brought in a medical team to transform a production trailer into a mini hospital room. He hired 2 nurses to be on set full-time. He restructured the shooting schedule so Jacob could work in shorter shifts with mandatory rest periods. He installed an air filtration system. He required anyone who came near Jacob to wear masks and use hand sanitizer. The studio executives called Clint, concerned about the delays and the costs. Clint's response was simple. We're not stopping. Jacob's name is going on this film as assistant director, and he's going to see it finished. That's non-negotiable. If you have a problem with it, replace me. They didn't replace him. For the next 6 weeks, Jacob Martinez worked on that film with a medical team, monitoring his every vital sign. On good days, he was on set for 6 hours. On bad days, he watched the monitors from his medical trailer and communicated with Clint via radio. But he was there every single day, contributing, learning, living. The crew adapted around him. They brought him scripts to review. They asked his opinion on shots. They made him feel not like a dying kid, but like a colleague, because that's what Clint insisted he was. Jacob's not here because we're being nice to him, Clint told the crew. He's here because he makes us better. He sees things we miss. He understands what this film needs to be. Treat him like the professional he is. During the final week of production, Jacob got weaker. He could barely walk without assistance, but Clint made sure he was on set for the last shot. A quiet moment on a train, the culmination of a story about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. When Clint called cut on that final take, he turned to Jacob. That's wrap. You did it, kid. You're a filmmaker. Jacob was crying. The whole crew was crying. They just watched a 19-year-old with terminal cancer complete a major Hollywood film as assistant director. But Clint wasn't finished. In post-production, Jacob was included in every decision. Clint sent him rough cuts to watch. They talked on the phone about editing choices, about music, about pacing. Jacob was too weak to leave his house by then, but he was still working on the film. 3 weeks before the premiere, Jacob Martinez died. He passed away at home with his parents beside him. A rough cut of the 1517 to Paris playing on a laptop at his bedside. At the premiere, Clint Eastwood did something unprecedented. He dedicated the entire film to Jacob. And then he did something even more remarkable. He brought Jacob's parents on stage during the introduction. This film is about heroes, Clint told the audience. It's about ordinary people who stood up when it mattered. Jacob Martinez was one of those heroes. He was 19 years old. He was dying of cancer. And he worked on this film with more dedication, more passion, and more professionalism than people twice his age with years of experience. He made this film better. He made all of us better. And his name is in those credits not because I felt sorry for him, but because he earned it. The audience gave Jacob's parents a 5-minute standing ovation. His mother later said it was the first time since Jacob's death that she felt anything other than grief. She felt pride. But the story doesn't end there. After the premiere, Clint established something he called the Jacob Martinez Fellowship. Every year it funds one film student with a serious or terminal illness to work on a professional film set as a paid crew member, not as charity, not as a publicity stunt, as a professional opportunity with real responsibilities and real credit. Over the past 7 years, 12 students have been Jacob Martinez Fellows. 3 of them have since died, but all of them got to work on real films. 2 have won Student Academy Awards for films they made during remission. 5 are working in the industry today, and every single one of them says the same thing. The fellowship didn't just give me a job. It gave me dignity. It gave me purpose. It gave me proof that I'm more than my illness. When asked about the fellowship in interviews, Clint's response is always the same. Jacob taught me that time doesn't matter as much as purpose does. He had 6 months. He could have spent them feeling sorry for himself. Instead, he spent them doing the thing he loved at the highest level. That's not tragic. That's triumphant. And if we can give other people that same chance to be professionals, not patients, in their final days, then Jacob's legacy lives on. Film students around the world study Jacob Martinez now, not because he made great films. He only worked on one, but because he represents something the industry often forgets, that passion and dedication matter more than experience, that dignity matters more than sympathy, and that some of the most important work happens when people have the least time left. There's a special thanks credit that appears in several Clint Eastwood films. Now, in memory of Jacob Martinez, who taught us that every day on set is a gift. It's a reminder to the crew that they're not just making movies. They're doing something that matters, something that someone else died wishing they could do. Jacob's mother visits the set of every Jacob Martinez fellowship placement. She doesn't interfere or make it awkward. She just watches from a distance, seeing other young people who are fighting for their lives get the same dignity and purpose that Clint gave her son. Clint didn't save Jacob's life, she said in an interview. Jacob was always going to die, but Clint saved Jacob's last 6 months from being about dying. He made them about living. He made them about creating something meaningful. That's a gift no medicine could have provided. The fellows who have gone through the program say, it changes everything. One fellow, a 22-year-old with stage 4 lymphoma, put it this way. Before the fellowship, I was a cancer patient who used to love movies. During the fellowship, I was a filmmaker who happened to have cancer. That identity shift saved my life, not physically, but in every way that matters. Today, Jacob Martinez's name appears in the credits of the 1517 to Paris as assistant director. It's right there, permanent alongside industry veterans. Film students watching that movie have no idea, unless they look it up, that Jacob was 19 and dying when he earned that credit. They just see a name, a professional, someone who contributed. And that's exactly what Clint wanted. Because the greatest gift you can give someone facing death isn't pity. It's not charity. It's not a consolation prize. It's the chance to be exactly who they dreamed of being, to do the work at the highest level, to prove that their life mattered not because of how they died, but because of what they created while they lived. Jacob Martinez applied to film school and got rejected. Then he got 6 months to live. But in those 6 months, he got something better than admission to any program. He got to be a real filmmaker, to work with a legend, to leave a legacy that still inspires people today. Modern Hollywood would have given Jacob a set tour and a signed photo. Clint Eastwood gave him a job, a credit, and a purpose. One is a memory that fades. The other is a legacy that endures. If this story of purpose in the face of death, dignity over sympathy, and the power of treating people as professionals rather than patients moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Share this with anyone fighting their own battle who needs to know their life can be about more than their illness. Have you ever been given the chance to be who you really are when others only saw your limitations? Share your story in the comments and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more incredible true stories about what matters when time runs.